to Ralph or not to Ralph? That is the question. And in this video, we're going to take a look at Ralph, specifically Ralph loops, what they are, how they work, how you can use one with the GitHub Copilot CLI, and whether or not that's even a good idea. So if you're ready, let's do it. Okay, so in a standard agent interaction, like when you're just working with the agent in chat, it looks something like this. You have a chat session, which is this outside box here, and then there's a prompt, and then you get an agent response, and then what happens? You send another prompt, and then you get another agent response, right? And it just keeps going, and it goes, and it goes, then it hopefully, eventually, right out the other end here, you have an app or whatever you're trying to create. In a Ralph loop, you're kind of taken out of the picture, and the agent iterates on what's called a product requirements document, which we talked about in videos before, to do the entire implementation for you. And it looks pretty much like this. It's just a while loop with a prompt that gets passed to Copilot. Now, if you've only used Copilot in Visual Studio Code, you might think, well, how would that work? Because I can't just pass a prompt to Visual Studio Code in a loop like that. But you can with the Copilot CLI. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. One of them is with a Ralph loop. We're going to look at the standard Ralph loop, and then we're going to look at Autopilot and Fleets, which is built into the CLI. See which one of these two is better, which one gives us better results. So let's first look at the actual Ralph loop. Okay, here's an example of a Ralph loop. This is it. It's just a bash script. Up here we have a counter. The counter is 1 to 1,000. It could be 1 to 100, could be 1 to 10. It's whatever you want. This is just how many times you want the loop to run. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go through and it's going to call Copilot here, passing -- YOLO, which just means approve all tool calls, and -P. When you call Copilot with -P, let me show you what happens here. If you didn't know that you can do this, you can call the Copilot CLI, so Copilot, you've -P, and then whatever your prompt is, right? So if I say hello to chat here, then this will get passed to the model. The model will generate a response, charge me 3 premium requests to say hello to you, and there it is. And then it just exits back to the terminal, right? It's a non-interactive session. And because you can do that, you can call this over and over and over again inside a while loop. And we're passing in the contents of this prompt.md file. So let's take a look at that. So the prompt just tells the agent what to do. It tells it read the PRD to see which user stories, and user stories are just describing how a feature should work, are unchecked. And then it refers to the progress.txt. This is another important part of the Ralph loop, which we'll talk about here in a second, where we're going to store learnings and patterns from previous iterations. Pick the first unchecked, unfinished, undone user story and implement one and one only. Then test your implementation manually using the agent browser skill, which I added. Commit your work, check the item off, and then right here, append any learnings about what you did to progress.txt. Now, this is a core principle of Ralph, and that is that every time that loop gets called, it starts with a fresh context window. So it has no idea what was previously done. And the idea here is that as the context window grows, the agent makes mistakes, and that it will see those mistakes and it may be inclined to make the same mistakes again. And so by providing a fresh context window, but always giving it the learnings of the past run, that the agent theoretically is getting smarter as it goes. It gets to start over with fresh learnings each time. Now, the PRD here is a PRD to port an application. It's the same application I show you in every video, from Blazor static web apps over to JavaScript. And we'll take a look at that application at the end here and see how the two methods that we did at actually porting that. I created this using plan mode in the Copilot CLI. I basically just said, I want to port this application to JavaScript. I let it ask me questions, and then I said, save that plan as a PRD, and this is what we got. There's a lot of general guidelines up here at the top. But if we scroll down, then you'll start to see the actual things that need to be done, right? These are very specific. And this isn't really as much a PRD as it is a plan, but it's a checklist of things that actually need to be done. Usually when you see a Ralph loop, it'll be something like the user should be able to click on the button, or there should be a green button in the right corner, right? And so in that case, the agent is actually implementing the feature and deciding what that is. We're using it for a port, so it's not quite the same, but there's no one right way to do PRD files. It's just a way to track what needs to be done, what has been done, and what remains to be done. That's essentially the Ralph loop in a nutshell. Now, how do you run a Ralph loop? You run it in the terminal. So let's do that. It's just the file and you run it. And that's it. And this is going to run, let's see, how many iterations did we put in here? We've got 100 iterations. So it's going to run 100 times, or it's going to run until it sees that all stories are complete, and it will respond with complete. Okay, we're going to let this Ralph loop cook. You can see that it's cooking here. It's already going through and doing the thing. While it does the thing, let's jump over and let's look at Autopilot in the Copilot CLI. Autopilot is very similar to a Ralph loop in so much as its main goal is to get the agent to run until everything is finished. But it doesn't work the same way. So for instance, in autopilot mode, the prompt that we're going to pass is really simple. Just implement the PRD, put the app in an app subfolder, which I had for the Ralph loop as well, work in commits, and then check all of your work with the agent browser skill. None of the orchestration here we have to worry about at all. Autopilot handles that behind the scenes, and we could dig into how that works exactly, the way that it sort of gets the agent to look for a higher order completion token of greater confidence. But it's just another way to get the agent to keep going, don't stop, because you may run this on a massive code base that takes hours or days to complete. And you need that agent to keep running until everything is finished. So let's see how we actually run this with Autopilot. I'm going to Shift Tab into Autopilot mode. You can see it's green here. And then all I'm going to do here is I'm going to tell it to implement the prompt, but we're going to use an additional feature of the CLI called Fleet. And Fleet allows it to deploy a fleet of sub-agents that can work simultaneously. So the Copilot CLI will figure out which jobs can be done at the same time without stepping on each other, and it will parallelize that work with Fleet. And then I'm just going to pass in the prompt, and I'm going to mention it with the @ syntax here. I rarely use this syntax, but in this case, this is perfect. And then we're just going to send it. Now, while this cooks, let's go back and check on Ralph and see how Ralph is coming with that implementation. So it looks like Ralph has created the application here in the folder, and it is going through and starting to complete this PRD. If we look at the progress here, it doesn't look like it's logged any progress yet. And if we look at the PRD, my guess is it has not checked anything off, which means that it is still on phase 1, right? So it hasn't actually checked anything off yet. It's going through and actually setting up all of the scaffolding that's needed for this project. It's initializing a Git repo. It's adding things to the Git ignore, making sure node modules is excluded. Agents are crazy smart these days. It's so much fun to just watch them work and watch what they do. Okay, so now it's marked the story as complete. And if we go to progress, we'll actually see some of the learnings that it has. So it's said it's created a React 19 plus Vite app, installed the front-end dependencies. Learnings: npm create Vite latest prompts for Vite 8 beta, pipe into skip, node 25 works fine for all dependencies. Is that super important for the next run to know? I don't really know. Doesn't seem like it, but this is what Ralph will do. It will just continue to loop and iterate until this entire thing is done. So let's jump back and check on Autopilot with Fleet and see what it's up to. What Autopilot does is it creates these to-dos in the SQLite database that comes with the Copilot CLI. If you didn't know that, there is a SQLite database there. It's created a to-do, and then for each one of the items that needs to be done over in the PRD, and then it's kicked off these tasks. Task general purpose task, these things are all running simultaneously. And we can look at those. If we do /tasks, we can see everything that's currently running. So it's creating an index, it's porting the global CSS, scaffolding the project, and it looks like it's already downloaded the static assets. And I can hit enter again to sort of just drill in here and see exactly what happened in this agent. And then we're going to bounce back out. So we have multiple things happening at one time, a parallelized setup with the autopilot and fleet, and that's being powered by that /fleet. I've let these things run to completion. I actually did this yesterday because it takes a while. For the Copilot CLI, it took about 45 minutes to finish this. And for the Ralph loop, it took almost a full day. Really long time. I had it on a lot more loops, though. I had it on 1,000, but it took a really long time. So what I want to do now is jump in and look at the different implementations that we got from those two methods, and let's compare and see which one of those gets us closer to the real thing. Okay, this is the app that it's supposed to be porting from Blazor, ASP.NET to JavaScript, React, Vite. You've probably seen this before. If you've seen any of my videos, it's always the same demo. You can add a new link here. Let's add github.com. Let's add microsoft.com. Let's add this great site. And then we get a bunch of links down here. We can drag and reorder these. We can have a vanity. Oh, looks like that vanity's taken. So we want to get a new one, and then we can publish this. And then if you go to this URL, you would see this live right now. I can go to my lists. I can manage these lists, go back in, add, remove links. That's the site. It's got a dark mode. So what we want to see is how well did these two things port the application. So the first one we're going to look at is Ralph. So let's take a look at Ralph. So this is Ralph. Now let's go back and compare because we wanted a pixel perfect match and we don't have it. So here's the original and then here's Ralph. And so the header's a bit off. That icon is too small. The highlight is overlapping. It did get the imagery right. It got this nice subtle arc down here, correct? All of this looks right. If I put in a URL, okay, this page actually looks far worse. So let's go back here. If you remember, it should look like this. And instead we got this. So still functional, but doesn't look great. If I drag and, okay, so that works. And then can we log in? Looks like we can. And can we publish? Doesn't look like that worked. And if we go to my lists, that does not look like the my lists page. Okay, so we got some work to do on this. That's not a one-for-one port. This application, by the way, looks simple, but it isn't. I've been over this before. It's pretty complex, and so it's a hard thing for a model to one-shot. Let's see if the dark mode worked. Yeah, looks pretty good. Okay, now let's take a look at what Autopilot plus Fleet was able to pull off here. Okay, so in this case, if we compare to the home page, this looks a little bit better. The logo's still a little small. The text here is too dark on the Autopilot. We can see here and here and here, but it got the color right? It didn't make this mistake, the mistake that Ralph made of having this be a different color. Now, does it actually work? Paste a URL. Okay, so that's not what we said at all, right? What we said was example.com. So not a pixel perfect match there. If we put in Google, oh, interesting. So Ralph picked up on the fact that it doesn't have to have a protocol. You shouldn't have to type the HTTPS. Ralph picked that up. Autopilot did not. But if we add it here, can we add a link? We did not get the Open Graph info. Let's try to add one more. Added GitHub. Okay, that time we did get the Open Graph info. So that's big because that's done on the server side. That's a function that runs on the server. It looks like we would need to fix it coming from the home page, but we did get it here. We can move things around. Can we log in? Sign in with Google. We cannot log in. So it's difficult for us to test the My Links page. If we go there, I don't believe we can even go there if we're not logged in. We cannot. So finally, I just want to test the 404. This is the 404 that the site has with this lovable green creature. Here's the 404 from Ralph. Looks pretty good. There's the 404 from Autopilot. And actually, if we're comparing, Autopilot almost nailed it. Ralph didn't quite get it right. It's a little too small there. So you can see that neither of them got it exactly right. But remember that both are dependent on the PRD that I gave them. So we could go back and look at the PRD and see if I actually gave them the information required to do this pixel perfect port. My guess is I did not. Now, the question is, should you use Ralph or should you use Autopilot? Well, looking at the results here, I would say that Autopilot probably did a slightly better job than the Ralph loop did. But there's some other major differences here. First of all, the Autopilot finished way faster. I think it was something like 45 minutes. Second of all, Autopilot is one go. So that's 3 premium requests to implement this whole port. For the Ralph loop, it's 3 premium requests on every single loop, right? So that's, if it ran 100 times, that's 300. If it ran 1,000, that's 3,000 premium requests. It's a lot, right? It's not the most bang for your buck by a long shot. And it is not evident to me that having an empty context window makes a difference in quality here. So my vote is Autopilot and Fleets because of cost, because of quality, and because it's built into the tool. So it's just simpler to use. There's no shell script to stand up, no loop to write, nothing like that. Just very simple. So to Ralph or not to Ralph, in my opinion, not to Ralph. But my demo is contrived. There are going to be places where Ralph is probably a better option, and you need to just know that you have that option. You can stick the Copilot CLI in a loop and run it over and over again. And that's okay to do, by the way, by the terms and conditions. I checked with the PM on that product, and that's okay to do. They're your premium requests. Use them how you want to. So, as always, use what works best for you, whether that's Ralph or Autopilot with Fleet. What works for you is all that matters. Thanks for watching. And as always, happy coding.